It's busting time. What's up, bozos? Welcome back to What's Good with Tony, where today we are asking, what's good with the new Ghostbusters movie? Well, you're in luck because I'm going to give you a review on the fourth newest installment. With a high budget of 100 million, which was 3.3 times more of the original movie with only 30 million, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire continues off with the Spengler family and Mr. Gruberson from Ghostbusters Afterlife, which paid tribute to the late Harold Ramis, who was one of the original 4 Ghostbusters from Ghostbusters 1 and 2. The fourth movie now takes place back in the Big Apple, baby, let's go! With the family now moving into the firehouse. Now you're probably thinking, how did they get the money for this? Well, you see, one of the original 4, Winston, became a CEO and he bought out the firehouse once again. And now that's the reason why the firehouse is back and up and running in business. That's right. It's back in business. Now the family continues the job of the original Ghostbusters, going around New York City and catching down ghosts. But the thing is, ghosts for some reason are coming back more and more every day. After one bad job from Phoebe after she blasts a proton energy beam into a building and Mr. Gruberson driving into a line of e-bike rentals, the mayor Peck by the way, who is from the original Ghostbusters movie, acting as the council management head to the mayor from the original movies. And you see, this mayor now, he really doesn't like the Ghostbusters. He's been trying to get them out of business since the first movie back then. And it comes to his pleasure finding out that Phoebe is only 15 years old. And I'm pretty sure you can put 2 and 2 together. It's kind of illegal. So what he does is he puts Phoebe now on a suspension until she is 18 years old. So meaning she cannot be a Ghostbuster until the age of 18. As for the others, they are allowed to continue, but they are now being watched closely from the mayor. Now this bums her out, as I quote, "It's my calling to be a Ghostbuster." But her mum and Mr. Gruberson agree that it's best for her to just enjoy her teenage years and, as they say, go make mistakes. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get my friend and we're gonna go rob a bank because, you know, we're just teenagers. We're gonna make mistakes, it's okay. Anywho, now that Phoebe can't work as a Ghostbuster anymore, she goes out into the park in the middle of the night and an empty park by herself, keep in mind, and she sets up a game of chess by herself. Now, you're probably thinking, why is she doing this? Well, you see, in the third movie, the way she communicated with Egon Spengler, one of the original Ghostbusters who sadly passed away, it was their way of communication between one another, allowing them to give a sense that he's there with her right now. So, as she sets up the chess, a piece moves forward, and that gets her thinking, is this my grandfather? Is he back? But if you remember from the third movie, at the end of the movie, his attachment that was keeping him down to the earth with his unfinished business was completed, which is why he fades away at the end of the movie. Now, you're probably thinking, who is this ghost then? Well, it's none other than this random ghost girl named Melody of all people. You see, Melody is kind of an interesting character. When I say interesting, I mean, to me, she didn't really play much of an important point in the movie, but you see, she brings up one cool little fact about herself. She burnt herself alive by accident, and not only did it kill her, it also ended up killing the rest of her family. So it's her fault, and her unfinished business is, like, we don't know what her unfinished business is, so okay, anywho, let's move on with that then. After chatting with Phoebe and beating her in chess, she just disappears. Now I'm going to skip to the climax of the movie, so I advise you, this is a big spoiler alert. Spoiler alert if you want to go check the movie out and all that, so this is your warning right now. I'll give another warning later, because I'm going to talk about the movie again. Melody tricks Phoebe into becoming a ghost thanks to this high-tech new gadget that they have at a different headquarters for ghost catching. It basically takes a possessed object like this, say there's a ghost, ooh, and basically it will suck the ghost out of the object, making the object not possessed anymore. And you see, Phoebe brings up the idea, oh, I'm gonna go in there. And it's like, that's not smart, it's dangerous. She says they're still testing it. If they're still testing it, that means don't go and do it, but she does it anyways. And in the end, she ends up getting possessed by the villain, Baraka. And the reason why he possesses her now is because, and I quote from Melody, Garaka can only possess ghosts and not humans. So basically, the whole point of Melody was just to work with Garaka and possess Phoebe. Anyways, so now that Garaka has Phoebe, he makes her speak these words that basically unleash him from this tiny little sphere that they have. Now that we've gotten to know our good little friend Garaka, let's head back to another main problem that the team faces. Now when the game puts in the ghost that they caught earlier in the... when the Ghostbusters put in the ghost that they recently caught into the containment unit, when the Ghostbusters put away the ghost they recently caught back into the containment unit, it's more hard to close. Now you're probably thinking, why? Now you see the issue is, it's full, which causes a big issue. So they ring up, one of the OGs, Winston, the CEO, and they tell him the issue. And you see, what they've discovered is that the containment unit hasn't been expanded, nor has a new one been built in 40 years. But what we don't know is that apparently there already is a new containment unit built. Now some guy named Nadim comes to a shop run by Ray Stantz, one of the OG Ghostbusters of course, and he's looking to sell a family heirloom. Now what's this heirloom, you may ask? It's obviously the sphere. That's the heirloom. The heirloom is the sphere, and no one knows about it except those back then, but we'll get to those people later. So he sells it off for 50 bucks, and that's insanely cheap considering it's like an ancient artifact, but who cares, 50 bucks, 50 bucks. Later it's stated that Garaka, the ice entity ghost who was trapped in the sphere, has been in there for a few thousand years, and spoiler alert, he's basically stuck in the heirloom for like a majority of the movie until the end, so don't expect to see too much of him. Kind of like with the other ones from, the previous movies, but like compared to Garaka, they get a lot more screen time than him. But now you're probably wondering, how did this guy even get stuck in the little sphere? Well, you see, there are these people called the Fire Masters, and it's pretty obvious. Fire, ice, fire melts the ice. So basically what happens is, these 4 Fire Masters trap Garaka into this sphere that is covered in bronze and copper, and that's kind of an important detail for later in the movie down the line. And get this, Nadim, the guy who sold off the family heirloom for $50, is the next in line to guard the sphere, because he's a fire master and he sold it for $50. Now he needs to learn the technique to control fire and to help Ghostbusters trap Garaka back into the sphere. Now this concept isn't that crazy considering in Ghostbusters 1 and 3, the humans get turned into demon scary statue dogs. And in Ghostbusters 2, there's a whole bathtub just filled with pink ooze, and oh yeah, let's not forget, the entire Statue of Liberty coming to life and smashing its giant mallet torch thing and swinging it down in a museum. And that's why I love Ghostbusters 2. Leave your opinion down below if you've seen the other Ghostbusters movies. Tell me what you think about it, because I love talking about movies with people. And I think the concept of New York being covered in ice with spikes shooting up in the ground and all that is such a cool idea, but it annoys me because they didn't really utilize the setting of a frozen New York that much. You get like a few camera shots of the city, like, oh, it's frozen, and you see the ice spikes come up and all that, but like I feel like they could have really utilized the space more. Now the final battle of the movie consists of, give me a second, I need to look at the screen because there is quite a few people. We got Phoebe, Trevor, Callie, Mr. Gruberson, Podcast, Lucky, Lars, Nadim, Janine, Winston, Ray, and Dr. Peter Venkman. That's a lot of people for a final battle. And with Garak cornering the cast in the firehouse, guess who else is back? It's Melody. Yeah. And you know what she does? She releases all the ghosts from the containment unit. Now you're probably thinking why? Now you see, it's because Garaka promised her that he will help her get to the afterlife to see her family. Which is pretty obvious it's not going to happen anytime soon, and he was just using her so he can be set free. Now you see, one negative point I got from this movie though is the ending. Because the cast is all kind of quickly huddled into the firehouse, like everyone just comes one after the other, and there's too much going on in the film at that point. I feel like they could have done is build up more towards the ending and slowly have the characters reach the firehouse all together to fight Garaka as a team. Now you see, what I would have done is I would have split the teams into what I will call oldies and the youngsters. And now what I would have done with the oldies is I would have had them around New York fighting off the ghosts and just trying to get back to the firehouse. The only person I'm taking away from the oldies is Nadim. What I do is I do what the movie had. Keep him in the firehouse, learning to use his, fire bending. Ooh. And I keep the youngsters with him, kind of like defending him, like a capture the flag thing. So that's what I would have done with that. And then I'd slowly push them all into the firehouse together, where then Garaka will show up and that's when I'd have them face off Karaka as a team, if you get what I mean. But with the youngsters though, I feel like some people like didn't really get their time to shine, because the actress for Phoebe, she's kind of like the more center point of it. As for her brother, this guy, Tim Wolfhard, playing Trevor, there's like nothing of him in the movie at all. He gets like a few scenes here. He gets like a little funny gag bit with Slimer because he's like living in the attic. But like other than that, he doesn't really have much going for him. So he's just kind of there for the sake that he has to be there himself. I don't know, I really feel like they could have used him a bit more, mainly more like a supporting older brother role to Phoebe, because she does tackle some issues with not being a Ghostbuster. But like, come on, why couldn't they like make him do something at least? Like, I don't know, make him do a backflip or something. I mean, like, come on. I could do that. Definitely. And you wanna know what happens? Again, this is a spoiler alert, big spoiler alert. They all get frozen. Except for Phoebe though. Now you see, Phoebe, she's actually downstairs in the containment unit area where Melody unleashes all the ghosts. And you know what Phoebe does? She comes right back upstairs, looks Karaka in the eye, turns on the proton pack. Well, if you watch the movie as well, you know that the proton pack does absolutely nothing. But if it's encased with copper or brass, there actually is a chance to hurt Karaka. Then he freezes Phoebe up too. They all get frozen. Until we hear a match flicker, and guess who it is? It's Melody. Yay! And with the match, Nadim uses his fire bending and basically does a fire blast around everyone, and it melts the ice. And then everyone gets ready to fight off Karaka, while the OGs head downstairs to the containment unit and decide if they reverse the containment unit, Karaka is captured. And yeah, and then that's how they beat him. That's kind of underwhelming considering Ghostbusters 1 ended on top of the 55 Central Park West building fighting Gozer. And with Ghostbusters 2, it ended at the Manhattan Museum of Art with Vigo. Sure, the third one ended in the middle of nowhere against Gozer again, but at least these movies had a build-up to its final climax of the movie. I understand why they couldn't do much with the movie, because they probably had to stick with the budget, and CGI and actors cost a lot of money as well. So I completely understand the choices that they did have to make with the movie, but that's just my opinion on what I could do with the movie if I had the chance to fix it. So that's that. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was an overall 9.7 out of 10. This is my first time doing a movie review, so please go easy on me. But I do hope to improve my reviewing skills and to create better content for you guys, like I mentioned in my first video. But I'll catch you guys later, where we ask the question once again, what's good? I'll see you guys then.